Howdy my peeps, today I'm going to be talking about color palettes with the tiniest sprinkling of color theory. But before we get into all of that, I would like to give shout outs, one to my patron Terre who gave me the suggestion for this video. Also, Grim Arts over on Instagram. We kind of had this back and forth conversation about color palettes that really helped me kind of put all my ideas and thoughts into words. Also, Duxani Arts here on YouTube and also on Instagram with the comment of the week. Thank you so much for your comment. If you would like to be the comment of the week, all you have to do is comment on any video. I have a super laid-back approach to art just in general, and that same thing also applies to the selecting of color palettes. And I actually learned how to select color palettes by using Pinterest. What I used to do is if let's say I wanted a pink color palette, I would just type in pink color palette on Pinterest and a bunch of options would come up. And by doing that, I kind of learned what colors go well together without actually learning color theory, which I think is pretty neat. But these days I have a slightly, I don't use pre-selected colors anymore, and I'm just a little more aware of color theory and how all that jazz works. Just a little bit, not too much. We don't want to get crazy here. But anyway, like most things, when it comes to selecting colors, it is really helpful to look at references. You can do this actively, which is actually going, let's say, on Pinterest and searching what you're looking for, or actively learning about color theory and what colors pair well together, or inactively, which is just through observation of everything around you, like nature, movies, photography, just stuff on Instagram, stuff in your life. If you see something that looks nice, you can look at it and ask yourself, these colors, how are they working? Why do they look so nice right now? And what colors, why do these colors look nice together? Things like that. And I found that to be really helpful when selecting colors, to the point where these days I don't even think about it too much. I'll just have a vague idea of what I want, and you'll see an example of that later on. I think lighting plays a huge role in creating moods in pictures, in artwork and stuff. But you can also use different types of colors to kind of convey certain types of moods. A couple of things that you should keep in mind while doing this is saturation, which is just how vibrant a color is, and value or tone, which is how light or dark the color is. You can take one color, let's say red, and you can lower the saturation of that and up the tonal value on that. And make this really dusty pink color that can give you one type of mood. And I think that has a really elegant, chill kind of feel to it. And you can take that same red, up the saturation, lower the tone, and make it dark, and that can give you this really moody feel. So you can just play around with the saturation and tonal value of a color to kind of get different types of moods. You can also put different colors together to give you a mood. I have quite a few favorites and go-to color palettes that I use quite often, and if I look on my wall of art here, I'd say the colors I use most often are orange and green together, and blue and orange together, and also a personal favorite. I like pastel blue and pastel pink together. I think they're really nice to me. They give off this kind of light, airy feel to them. I think they're really nice together. Orange and green, I think those are the colors you'd see as summer makes its transition into fall. It's really cozy and nice, it's just nice. Your bright greens and yellow can remind you of nature, and really lush vegetation, dense vegetation, especially if you don't have any blue of a sky in there. Let's say you're drawing something outside. I don't know what you're drawing. But let's say you're drawing a character outside and you have all this, the character surrounded by greens and yellows, and there's no blue. It makes it seem like they're just surrounded by vegetation, and it's so amazing. Light blues and white to me are kind of pastel pink and blue, kind of light and airy, but depending on the context in which you use those colors, they can mean something different. I think blue and white also kind of have this sterile, cold feeling to them, especially if you use them in an indoor setting, or if you let's say you have a character and you like if you're using a digital program, like overlay some blue over the skin tone, it can make things look really cold. And I really like sunset colors. To me, they're really cozy and dreamy and kind of magical, because sunsets are magical. They're amazing, and I really like them. Muted colors to me are kind of sad and dreary and kind of weighty, you know. They kind of have like a dark, kind of creepy kind of feel. Especially if like you have a picture and it's like that's all you're using, it can give you that really dark feeling. Cool versus warm colors used to really confuse me a lot, but after doing my little swatches here, I actually noticed something that I didn't really pay attention to before, and that's that cool reds are kind of purpley, cool blues are kind of purpley, cool yellows are just like highlighter yellow, warm reds are kind of orangey, warm yellows lean towards orange as well, and warm blues are not really green, but just they're not quite purpley, you know? This is really good to know, because if you're mixing colors traditionally, you do not want to mix cool colors with warm colors unless you're trying to make that color desaturated. So like if you see that sunset up there, I only used warm colors to make sure that my gradient was good and that there wasn't any type of desaturation of the colors, whereas when I was coloring, well, swatching the muted colors, I did the exact opposite and mixed cool colors with warm colors so that I can get desaturated colors. I'm so sorry folks, but we had to pull out the color wheel. You just can't escape it, it seems. Well, actually, you can. Basically, the types of colors I'm going to be using in the little example that I have for you are analogous colors, which are the three colors that are next to each other, complementary colors, which are the two colors that are across from each other on the color wheel, and the last one is just a wild card, and the only thing that kind of unifies that picture is the fact that I'm only using desaturated colors. So the first color palette up on our list is an analogous color scheme, and I'm using cool pink, which is, pink is basically light red, so I'm using like a cool pink and a cool blue, and when you mix those two colors together you get a cool purple. So boom, analogous color scheme. It's really that simple. Like I mentioned earlier, well, I don't know if I did, but anyway, if you just like spend a lot of time looking at a lot of references and seeing how colors are paired, you really do not need to pull out a color wheel. In fact, I did not pull out a color wheel for this. In fact, I just completely winged it. Is it wung it or wing it? I did something. Anyway, so kind of going back to the kind of cool, warm kind of deal, if I had have taken a warm, let's say warm pink, and tried to mix it with that cool blue, it would have created some desaturated colors, but that's not what I was going for. So that's why I really needed to take those two cool colors, and I didn't even like mix the two together on my color palette. I just kind of mixed them together on the paper, and they created a nice cool purple, and boom, nice color palette. Next we have another analogous color scheme. This time it's greens and yellows. And this is actually the example that was on the color wheel that I showed earlier. So yeah, like if it helps you to pull out a color wheel, you most certainly can. You don't have to wing everything like I do. Or like I mentioned earlier, pull out a reference photo. And with this one, I also played around with the saturation and tonal values of the colors. So I used a really bright, cool yellow and some desaturated greens to kind of get this like greenery around him, and it was really nice. And it also pairs really well with his skin tone. I think his skin tone is kind of well, actually I typically don't do this, but I like added some yellow to his face, which was supposed to kind of be like the light around him bouncing off onto his skin or whatever, but it kind of helped to unify the piece. And there you go, we got another nice color palette. Now these last two I really did wing. This one is an example of complementary colors. So I used a warm blue and a desaturated orange. Actually, desaturated orange, as I was working on this, I realized is just brown. So do with that information what you will. So I actually usually do the inverse of this. I usually do desaturated blue with bright orange, but you know, we're trying to be fancy here, so I did the exact opposite. And I kind of also let the white of the paper show, so I guess you can consider that to be a third color, if you want to, but you don't have to, you know? Now this last color scheme is basically all desaturated colors, and this one, I won the last one, but I definitely won this one as well, because I don't really work with desaturated colors often, so it was a bit of a challenge, not gonna lie. But basically what I did is I just mixed up a really desaturated grayish brown and kind of just layered that over top of each other, over top of itself, I guess. And then later, to kind of add just a touch of color, I just kind of went over some areas with light washes of color to kind of, you know, get just a little bit of color, not too much, and it's still like really desaturated. That's like a watercolor tip, I think. Like if you wanted to, like kind of like if you were in a digital program, you do like overlays and stuff, you can do that with watercolors by just like doing your washes of color first. And like desaturated colors, I find it's so nice because you don't really have to think so much about colors. I actually just added straight black at times to make sure the colors were dark enough, instead of just like adding the opposite colors, so like you don't even have to get super technical with it. Anyway, my peeps, that is pretty much it. I hope this video was really helpful. If you would like to support me in my art, you can head over to Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and stuff. I'm actually gonna like upload the full speed painting over there, like if you're interested in that, you know. Also shout out to my patrons, Turtle Bun Buns, who suggested this, Ariana and Kelsey. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you and everything you do. I'm also on Coffee, and you can also follow me on Instagram, or you can subscribe to my channel if you want to. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and please enjoy the rest of your day, my peeps.